Hello everyone, welcome to pharmacology. That is the world of drugs, my dear friends. See, when you study pharmacology, when you start pharmacology, always and always start it with general pharmacology. Because you see, when you are trying to build a building, it is very important that you apply the right amount of cement, right? And the cement over here is your general pharmacology. When you study the subsequent chapters, you're going to realize that you studied general pharmacology. That is why those chapters become very easy for you to understand. All the aspects of pharmacology become very easy for you to understand. So we start with general pharmacology. We are going to be studying one aspect of general pharmacology, that is absorption, over here in this video. So we are going to start with it, okay? So see, general pharmacology is basically divided into two units. There is pharmacokinetics and there is pharmacodynamics. So what is pharmacokinetics? Pharmacokinetics, see, when a drug is going to go inside the body, what is going to happen? The drug is going to interact with the body. Okay, the body is going to do some processes with the drug, and the drug is also going to do some processes which are going to alter the physiological function of the body, and that is how it produces its effect. Okay, now you see, when we talk about pharmacokinetics, no, what the drug does to body, that is called as pharmacokinetics. So when a drug is entering inside the body, it will get absorbed inside the bloodstream, right? It will get distributed to various tissues. It will get metabolized mainly in the liver, and then when all of its actions are over, when it's already performed its action, then it is going to get excreted from the body. And then we come to pharmacodynamics. Pharmacodynamics is what the drug does to body. So now when the drug is going to go inside the body, it is going to interact and cause some changes which will produce physiological changes in the body. Okay, we will talk about the types of receptors and the response produced by the body. We will also talk about the mode of drug action, therapeutic drug monitoring, pharmacovigilance, clinical trial. Don't worry about it. Okay, I'm not explaining you everything in detail over here. This is just the overview of like what we are going to study in general pharmacology. That is very, very important. Okay, now see, when we are studying general pharmacology, we study pharmacokinetics and dynamics. Now what comes under pharmacokinetics is ADME, that is absorption, distribution, metabolism and excretion. So we are going to be studying absorption over here. Now what is absorption? See, what happens is you have this bloodstream and you have this gastrointestinal tract. When you are going to take a drug, imagine you take a drug orally. That drug goes inside the gastrointestinal tract, and now what is going to happen? This drug goes inside the bloodstream. It is going to be absorbed inside the bloodstream. Now what is absorption? If somebody asks you the definition of absorption, what are you going to say? Absorption is the movement of drug from site of administration into blood. What matters is it has to go inside the bloodstream. From wherever you are taking it orally, you are taking it rectally, that does not matter. It has to go inside the bloodstream. Now you might ask me one question, like you might ask me, like in the case of intravenous drugs, when the drug is already going inside the blood, what about absorption in that case? You're exactly right. There is no absorption. There is no absorption in the case of intravenous drugs. Why? Because you're already giving the drug inside blood. When the drug is already inside blood, why is absorption required? Absorption means that the drug has to go inside the blood from wherever it is taken. Okay, now when you're talking about the other drugs, they have to cross this lipid membrane, right? They have to cross the lipid membrane, that is the cell membrane. And how are they going to cross the cell membrane? Let's look at the processes. See, there is diffusion, there is facilitated diffusion, there is active transport. Now, when we talk about diffusion, it is along the concentration gradient. That means from high concentration to low concentration. There is no requirement of energy. There is no requirement of any carrier. See, there are carrier proteins which carry the drug from high concentration to low concentration or low concentration to high concentration. It depends on what kind of carrier it is. So there is no carrier, so it is non-saturable. Now what is non-saturable? What do you mean by this term? See, if I say that you are traveling from one place to another, if you go by walking, it doesn't matter, 10 people, 1000 people can go walking. But if you have booked a car, now in that car there is place for only 6 people. only 6 people can sit inside the car, right? But if there are 10 people, what about the 4 people? The car will have to come again and the car will have to carry the 4 people. Otherwise, you will have to book one more car, right? So here it is saturable when we are talking about this car example. But now when we talk about non-saturable, the walking example, see here there is no carrier. So like if there are 10 amount of drugs, 10 units of drug, they can all go inside the bloodstream, right? Because there is no carrier involved here. Remember, wherever carrier is involved, that means it is going to be saturable, and wherever carrier is not involved, it is going to be non-saturable. Okay? And remember that this is the most common method which is used, which is there in the body for the absorption to happen. Then we talk about facilitated diffusion. Facilitated diffusion is also along the concentration gradient, no energy required, but it is saturable because there is carrier involved here. Now when we talk about active transport, see when you talk about very high profile people, they are very high profile people, they will always spend energy, they will always spend cash, they will spend energy. So here there is requirement of energy. Oh, I forgot to write it here, but please mention it over here that there is requirement of energy. So energy is required over here, and the movement is always from low to high concentration. They are saturable because carrier is involved, and this is the fastest. Okay. Now see, we have already talked about the processes. What are the processes? Diffusion, facilitated diffusion, active transport. Now we talk about the factors affecting absorption. See, when we talk about the factors affecting absorption, there are 6 factors which are going to be affecting absorption. First is the size. If the size is more, it is difficult for the drug to enter the bloodstream, to cross the cell membrane and enter the bloodstream, right? If the size is small, it can do it very fast. So, size more, absorption less. That means inversely proportional. Lipid solubility. See, the drug has to cross the lipid membrane, that is the cell membrane, because we all know that the cell membrane is a lipid layer. It is a phospholipid bilayer, right? So, what happens is, if the lipid solubility of the drug is more, it can easily cross. So, it is directly proportional to absorption. Surface area. See, when we talk about small intestine, why a lot of drugs get absorbed in the small intestine? Because the surface area is more. If the surface area is more, the drug will be more absorbed. More amount of drug will be absorbed. So, it is directly proportional. Blood flow. See, it has to enter inside the blood flow. It has to enter inside the bloodstream, right? So what happens if you have a lot of arteries and capillaries and a lot of blood flow? It is very easy for the drug to get absorbed. Now, I am going to explain you these 2 factors in detail because they are very easy and important to understand. P-glycoprotein, pH and ionization. See, I have already explained you that the small intestine has more surface area and most of the drugs they get absorbed in small intestine. That is the reason. Okay. Now you see, when we talk about P-glycoprotein, you have to remember this thing very well, that when we are talking about P-glycoprotein, no, what happens here is, this P-glycoprotein is basically an efflux transporter. Now, what do you mean by efflux transporter? Now, what happens is, see, this is your cell, okay? When a drug is going to be present inside the cell, like a drug has to go inside the cell to act most of the times when you are talking about it. So, if a drug has got absorbed inside the bloodstream and then from the bloodstream, it goes inside the tissues, it gets distributed inside the tissues. So, now when the drug is there inside the cell, it also has to move out when all of its action is done. Now, this P-glycoprotein is going to help this drug to move out of the cell. This P-glycoprotein is going to say, get lost out of the body to this drug. And the drug also happily goes out because the drug's action is done. But now, if you are going to block this P-glycoprotein, what is going to happen? The drug is going to remain here only inside. And when the drug remains here only inside, there will be toxicity of the drug. That means the drug will be increased in the body and it will cause various other effects which it is not required to produce. Okay. So now what happens over here is, this P-glycoprotein is an efflux transporter, ATP dependent. That means requires energy. Now see, if this is the cell of liver, then where is this drug going to go? Inside bile, so that it can be excreted out. If it is kidney cell, then it will go in urine so that it is excreted out. If this is GIT, it will enter the lumen so that it can be excreted out of the body. Okay, understood? So this P-glycoprotein is going to help in the efflux of the drug. It is going to help in the excretion of the drug. But now remember, there is a vampire. A vampire, guys. A vampire. And what is the name of the vampire? The name of the vampire is QVAC. What is QVAC? Quinidine, verapamil, amiodarone, clarithromycin, erythromycin. See, you can remember erythromycin also by clarithromycin because both are antibiotics. We will talk about quinidine when we talk about antiarrhythmics and all. Amiodarone and verapamil also in detail. Don't worry about that. Right now, just remember the names. So these are the inhibitors of P-glycoprotein. You know, this is a vampire. QVAC. The name of the vampire is QVAC. So what this QVAC does? This QVAC is basically going to block P-glycoprotein and trap the drug inside the cell and cause toxicity. And what are the most common drugs which are going to be trapped inside? They are cyclosporin, digoxin and loperamide. We will talk in detail when we talk about cyclosporin, digoxin and loperamide. Loperamide is basically going to cause spasm in the GIT. Digoxin is also used as antiarrhythmic. Cyclosporin is basically your immunosuppressant. We will talk in detail in the subsequent chapters. Don't worry about that. So why it will cause the toxicity of these drugs? Because these drugs require the P-glycoprotein to be thrown out, to be excreted. Okay, remember this. And this is very, very important. It has come in various FMGE exams, P-glycoprotein inhibitors. So remember this. It is very important. Quinidine, verapamil, amiodarone, clarithromycin, erythromycin. There are various others, but the most important ones which have been asked again and again, they are quinidine, verapamil, amiodarone, clarithromycin, erythromycin. Okay. Now, we move on to pH and ionization. See, what is the thing with pH and ionization? Remember, when you have a drug which is unionized, unionized means it has not broken into its ions. So if a drug is unionized, it is lipid soluble, right? See, when you talk about water, water is a polar molecule. Okay, see, always apply chemistry and physics to biology so that you can understand the things better. Now, when you talk about water, water is a polar molecule. It can be broken down into H plus and OH minus. So, how will you say that this polar molecule, what it will attract? You tell me, unionized or ionized form? Ionized, exactly. This is the power of chemistry, that you can understand certain things of pharmacology, okay? Now see, what happens over here is, when you are talking about this neutral drug, which is unionized, it is lipid soluble, okay? Now, when you ionize this drug, what happens? It becomes water soluble, because what will happen? There is always attraction between similar molecules. Like you have polar, it will be more soluble in polar. Now this is polar, ionized, that is more soluble in water. So what you understand by this is basically, when you have unionized molecule or unionized drug which is neutral, it is lipid soluble, and the ionized one is water soluble. I want you to remember two things over here, two very important things, that acidic drug is more ionizable in basic pH. See, just imagine that you have a girlfriend and you both are very opposite. She likes chicken, you like paneer. She hates to go to parties, but you love parties. She wants to study, but you don't want to study. Like, there is complete contraindication to, at some point of time, what is going to happen? There is going to be breakup. Similar is the case over here. You have acidic drug, you have basic pH, completely opposite. Break the acidic drug, that means ionize the acidic drug. Understood? Now what happens over here? Acidic drug is more ionizable in basic pH, and basic drug is more ionizable in acidic pH. Remember that the drug is going to exist in both the forms, ionized, unionized in the body. You have to see like where the drug is present. Okay, I'll tell you about everything, don't worry about it. Okay, so here what happens? You have to remember that unionized drug is going to be lipid soluble and ionized drug is going to be water soluble. This is the most important thing that you have to remember. And the second thing that you have to remember is that acidic drug is more ionizable in basic pH and basic drug is more ionizable in acidic pH. Now, what is the clinical significance? See, before moving to clinical significance, we are going to talk about Henderson-Hasselbalch equation. Why Henderson-Hasselbalch equation is important? Henderson-Hasselbalch equation is important to solve some questions which I'm going to tell you right now. See, Henderson-Hasselbalch equation is basically pH equal to pKa plus log H minus upon HA. This is the equation. So if the drug is like 50% ionized, that means this is 50, this is also 50. pH comes out to be equal to pKa. pKa is the ionization constant. So you can say that the pH at which the drug is 50% ionized, that is called as pKa of the drug, right? I will tell you the significance of this Henderson-Hasselbalch equation in some time. Now see, when you talk about the clinical significance of pH and ionization, why are we studying pH and ionization? For the treatment of poisoning. Now what happens is, if you have some acidic drug poisoning, like your aspirin, methotrexate or barbiturate, poisoning means what? Toxicity, right? Now when you have aspirin, methotrexate and barbiturate, what is going to happen? You want to eliminate it out. You want to eliminate these drugs out. How will you do that? Through urine. Urine is mostly water. Which form is soluble in water? It is the ionized form which is soluble in water. How will you ionize acidic drug? Bring acidic pH. No, not acidic pH. Bring basic pH. Why do you bring basic pH? Why do you want basic pH? Acidic drug in basic pH will be more ionizable. You have more ionization in basic pH. So what you are going to do is urine alkalinization, and for that you use acetazolamide or sodium bicarbonate. Okay, that is NaHCO3. Now see, when you are talking about acidic drug poisoning, what you are doing is you are using acetazolamide or NaHCO3. Okay. Now, when you talk about basic drug poisoning like amphetamine or morphine, you are going to acidify the urine. Why are you going to acidify? Because see, we said that it has to be eliminated in urine. Basic drug will be more ionizable in acidic pH. Exactly. So urine acidification you are going to do, you are going to use NH4Cl, vitamin C or cranberry juice. See, the side effect that can be there is metabolic acidosis, so you are not going to perform this thing clinically. This is only theoretically we are talking about, okay? But there is one important thing that you need to remember, that is cranberry juice. Cranberry juice is used in a lot of UTI treatments because it is going to acidify urine and it becomes very difficult for microbes to survive in that acidified urine. Now see, 1 unit change in pH is going to cause 10 times change in ionization. I will explain you why I am talking about this. Now remember one thing, we talked about Henderson-Hasselbalch equation, okay? Right now we talked about Henderson-Hasselbalch equation, right? This is the Henderson-Hasselbalch equation, pH equal to pKa plus log H minus upon HA. Now you bring this pKa over here, it becomes pH minus pKa equal to this. Now remember, when the difference between pH minus pKa is -2, -1, 0, +1, +2. We are going to talk about it. So what is the percentage of ionized form and what is the percentage of unionized form? Easy. The first thing we start with is 50%. See, we said when it is 50%, 50-50 it comes out to be, right? And then pH equal to pKa. So what will be pH minus pKa? It will be 0. So this is easy to understand, that pH minus pKa will be 0 when you have 50% ionized and 50% unionized form. Now you see, when you have -1, when the difference is -1, ionized is 10, unionized is 90. And when you have -2, ionized is 1, unionized is 99. So now what do? When you have +1, this 90 comes here, this 10 comes here. There is a cross formed, okay? This is the way that you can just remember it, okay? +1, 90 comes here, 10 comes here. +2, 99 comes here, 1 comes here. This is just one way to remember it. Remember. Now I told you 1 unit change in pH will cause 10 times change in ionization. What do you mean by that? See, 1 unit change in pH, that means 1 unit change in pH is happening here, right? There is 1 unit change in pH over here. This is going to cause 10 times change in ionization. See, I have done this for you. So what happens is, when you are talking about the 0 to +1 and +1 to +2, see, just take the example of this. +1 to +2, there is 1 unit change, okay? So there will be 10 times change in ionization. 10 times change, that means 90 plus. Now why am I adding this? Why am I not subtracting this? So see, what is happening? pH minus pKa is +1. That means pH is increasing. So when pH is increasing, what is going to happen? It is basic pH, okay, and acidic drug in basic pH will be more ionized. So ionization form I will add it. So this is the drug which is acidic that we are talking about. pH is more, that means alkaline, acidic drug, more ionized form. That is why I have added 10% of 90 to this. Because we had 90 plus 10% of 90, it comes out to be 99. That is how this came. See, you can actually solve all of this using the log table, but it becomes very difficult for you to solve during exam, because you have to be very fast and instantaneous during exams, right? So you should remember this table, because otherwise sometimes if your concepts also go wrong in solving log, it becomes very difficult for you to solve it, okay, sometimes. But if you can do that, okay, that is well and good, then you don't need to remember the table. But this is like a very fast way that you can solve the questions, okay. Now when you talk about basic drug, see, basic drug, there is one trick that I'm going to explain you, and the one trick that I'm going to tell you is what you do. This is your table for acidic drug, right? What you have to do over here is, do not change anything else. Just alter this unionized with ionized. Bring unionized here and ionized here, and you get this table. Can you understand this? Unionized 1, 10, 50, 90, 99 is the same. Okay, what you have done is just changed unionized with ionized. So here you have got this entire table. Why it is important? Because you get some questions on it. Example, see, amphetamine, it is given to you that it is a basic drug with pKa 8, and it has been asked to you what percentage will be ionized at urine pH equal to 6. Now you tell me what is going to happen, what you are going to do. I told you pH minus pKa is what you have to do, not pKa minus pH. Remember this. So pH minus pKa is what? 6 minus 8. It comes out to be minus 2. Minus 2. And remember, amphetamine is a basic drug. So basic drug table is here, minus 2 is here. There are two answers, 1, 99. But what has been asked to you is what percentage will be ionized. Ionized is 99. Unionized is 1. So in the option you will be given 1, 99, and you will also be given various other examples. But now here the option that you are going to take is 99, because what has been asked to you is the percentage of ionized form. So it is 99. See, here we end the discussion of this absorption topic. It is very important that you study absorption and see why some drugs get absorbed in stomach, why some get absorbed in intestine. That also I have to explain you. So what happens is, see, when we talk about acidic drugs, I told you that a drug which is acidic will be ionizable in basic pH, and a drug which is basic will be ionizable in acidic pH. Now, when you want absorption to happen, do you want the drug to be ionized or unionized? You want the drug to be ionized? No, you are exactly wrong, my dear friends. See, what happens is, when you want a drug to be absorbed, like when you want this drug to be absorbed, it has to cross this cell membrane, and this cell membrane is made up of lipid. And you know very well that the drug which is unionized is lipid soluble. So this drug has to remain unionized. So acidic drug will be ionized in basic pH, but it will remain unionized in acidic pH. So acidic drug in the stomach will be absorbed. Why? Because acidic drug is there in acidic pH, because you have gastric acid over here, right? You have HCl over here. So now this is acidic pH. That is why this acidic drug will get absorbed in the acidic drug environment, that is the acidic environment, because it is remaining unionized, can easily cross the cell membrane. Now why basic drugs get absorbed in small intestine? Because in the small intestine you have various other secretions which make small intestine, which make duodenum and the initial part of small intestine basic, and that is why it remains unionized and can be easily absorbed in the small intestine. Understood? See, this is all about absorption. Remember that you have to study all the topics of general pharmacology properly, and stay fit, stay happy, keep learning, never ever stop learning in your life. And remember that you have to keep a balance of everything in life. It is not that you have to study for 24 hours and you are not taking care of your health. You're drinking a lot of coffee and you're not even looking at your health. So the most important thing is a healthy, happy, productive life. It is very, very important that you take care of yourself, Because sometimes you're not mentally stable, but you are just trying to study, but not even able to study. So at that point of time, what do? You have to deviate yourself from studies. It is very important to study, I agree, but it is also very important to take care of yourself in every aspect. Be it your mental strength, be it your psychological strength, be it your physical strength. It is very, very important that you grow in all the aspects of life, okay? So take care and be very happy. Keep learning in life. Thank you so much.